Okay, let's just dive right into it. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack a super fascinating and honestly wildly misunderstood psychological reality. We're looking at the ultimate paradox. The high achiever, who always seems to get the job done, who consistently meets every single expectation, but, and here's the catch, secretly relies on the crushing, extreme stress of the very last minute to actually do it, right? To the outside world, you look incredibly successful. You look productive, but internally, you're probably running on fumes, completely exhausted from this relentless cycle of waiting until the absolute final second. So today, we're going to break down the 5 signs you might just be a high-functioning procrastinator.
So tell me, do you meet your deadlines at 3 a.m.? I want you to be really honest with yourself here. Think about that frantic internal monologue you have during that 3 a.m. scramble. You know the one, the rapid-fire typing, the heart palpitations, the quiet, heavy exhaustion that hides right behind your outward success. You get the A, you land the pitch, you submit the massive project, and everyone around you praises your hard work. But what they don't see is the extreme stress you literally forced yourself through just to cross that finish line. Now, people might have told you this is just laziness or maybe poor time management, but psychology? Well, psychology says something entirely different.
What's absolutely fascinating here is how this completely flips the script on what we think we know about procrastination. See, a high-functioning procrastinator isn't someone who just doesn't care. Actually, it's a state where your brain literally requires high-pressure threats and what psychologists call dopamine-urgency spikes just to activate your focus. You aren't just blowing things off, your brain is operating on a totally different frequency of motivation. And a lot of the time, this is driven by perfectionism-induced paralysis. Your brain is so hyper-aware, so intelligent, that it needs the immediate impending threat of failure to overcome the sheer paralysis of having to do the task perfectly. So take a breath. It's not a moral failing. It's just a highly complex psychological framework.
All right, let's look at sign number 1, the illusion of progress.
Before a task even truly begins, your brain is already playing this rather brilliant but totally sabotaging mental trick on you. And it all comes down to this concept of cognitive complexity. Highly aware individuals possess a mind that naturally wants to examine absolutely every angle, every single consequence, and every possible outcome of a task before they even pick up a pen or open their laptop. Because you have this intense cognitive complexity, your brain is basically simulating the work in vivid, incredible detail inside your head. You're essentially doing the whole project mentally before you ever start doing it physically.
And this is exactly the trap of that cognitive complexity. We have this huge battle between simulated progress and actual progress. In cognitive psychology, imagining success, like mentally walking through the task, actually gives your brain a premature sense of achievement. It releases these tiny hits of satisfaction just from thinking about it. But because you've already gotten that premature satisfaction, it effectively kills your biological urgency to take actual action. It's like your brain thinks the work is already done. So you delay the physical effort until the external pressure, that ticking clock, becomes completely unavoidable. You've basically confused thinking about the work with actually doing it.
Moving right along to sign number 2, selective organization and hidden fear.
Now, I bet a lot of you are going to relate to this one because it deals with some very specific behavioral quirks regarding how you manage the space around you. Have you ever looked at your workspace and realized it's basically a tale of two cities? On one hand, you've got physical chaos. We're talking a desk covered in old coffee cups, random sticky notes, just general clutter. Or a bedroom that looks like a literal tornado hit it. But on the other hand, perfectly structured digital order. Your digital files, your spreadsheets, your work systems, they are immaculately organized, color-coded, and highly efficient. To anyone else, you just look inconsistently messy. But psychology actually has a name for this.
It's called selective organization. And it's all about mental efficiency. High IQ procrastinators do not organize everything equally. Your brain is actually making a very calculated subconscious decision to save its precious cognitive energy for what truly matters. You just ignore the mundane details, like that messy room or a cluttered inbox, so you have the mental bandwidth available for high-stakes tasks. It isn't laziness, guys. It's a strategy to maintain mental efficiency. You are selectively deploying your focus where it counts the most.
Okay, sign number 3 is what we call the planning trap.
This is where we uncover how the desire to dream big is very often just camouflage for a much deeper, hidden fear. Consider this quote: "Readiness usually comes after action, not before." See, a lot of high-functioning procrastinators don't lack ambition. No way!
You probably dream massive, beautiful dreams, but you stay stuck in the planning phase. You research, you prep, you wait for that magical right moment to start. Why? Because as long as you're just researching, your dream remains perfect. It's untarnished. Staying stuck in the planning phase is really a defense mechanism against the slow, uncomfortable reality of effort and the terrifying potential that you might try and fail. You attach yourself to the potential of success because, honestly, it just feels safer than facing the messy reality of doing the work.
Which brings us to our final two signs, 4 and 5, the toll of overthinking and uneasy rest.
Let's slow down for a second here. We really need to unpack the intense physical and emotional weight this cycle puts on you. Living like this, it is not free. It takes a massive toll on your nervous system. Let's walk through this escalating journey together, what we call the cascading drain on cognitive bandwidth. First up, step 1, deep analysis. Your brain enters a deeper thinking state, connecting all these complex ideas in solitude. Then, step 2, simulated action. Like we talked about, you vividly imagine doing the task, which naturally leads to step 3, mental exhaustion. Just by processing those infinite possibilities, you completely drain your cognitive bandwidth. And finally, step 4, high alert waiting. You just sit there in a state of sheer tension, waiting for the panic to set in so you can finally move. This heavy, exhausting cycle happens long before you've even typed a single word.
And that brings us to a huge realization. If you take anything away from this explainer, I want it to be this. You aren't avoiding the work, you are already mentally exhausted. By the time you actually sit down at your desk, you feel tired, because that deeper thinking state is incredibly expensive for your brain. You aren't being lazy. You are simply completely drained from the heavy mental weight of all those possibilities you've already processed. Basically, you're exhausted right at the starting line.
And this explains exactly why you can't even enjoy your downtime. It's called chronic stress adaptation. Even when you are technically procrastinating, you aren't relaxing, right? You feel super uneasy doing absolutely nothing. And why is that? Because your nervous system has literally been trained to stay on alert. You've adapted to only feel useful or safe when you are urgently needed or under intense pressure. Your body now associates true rest with neglect or even danger. So your procrastination isn't recovery at all. It's just a period of high alert waiting. This is exactly why you wake up feeling heavy and unfocused, no matter how many hours you supposedly rested.
So, the big question, how do we break out of this? Let's talk about shifting your mindset.
Listen, being a high-functioning procrastinator absolutely does not mean you are broken. It just means your brain prefers depth and complexity over surface-level tasks. The real problem here is that you're misusing high-pressure stress as a tool for focus, and that pressure is exactly what's causing your burnout. So here's the crucial realization. Your worth does not equal your output under pressure, period. Healing from this cycle begins the exact moment you realize that your value isn't tied to how much you can crank out at the 11th hour. You have to allow yourself to take up space. You have to allow yourself to rest, like truly rest, without that suffocating guilt of an unfinished to-do list constantly hanging over your head.
I want to leave you with this final, lingering thought today. Who could you be without the panic? Just imagine a version of yourself that creates from a place of calm readiness, rather than terrified urgency. Imagine what your brilliant mind could actually achieve if it wasn't constantly recovering from the stress of a 3 a.m. deadline. If you want more explainers that decode the hidden psychology behind your habits and your mind, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now, because our next explainer might just reveal a part of your psychology you never even knew existed. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time.